Hey, beautiful people. This is Nika.
And Cliff. You know what time it is.
Get ready as we dive into some inspiring and powerful stories here on Jadea's Journey.
Yo. We are back.
He's on one today, ladies and gentlemen.
Back with another one.
All right.
Thank you. Building.
Thank you for the introduction, Cliff.
No problem. I'm just kind of, getting a little flashback of my rapping days.
Oh, goodness.
Yo, mic check.
1 2 1 2.
Welcome back to another episode of Jadea's Journey.
Episode 5.
Man.
Yay.
We didn't a full month.
Yeah. I wish we had the clapping background noise. That'd be great right now.
Yeah.
A full month. Praise God.
Yes.
How cool. I hope that this continues.
I feel the same way.
Okay. So, how excited are you for this episode? I'm pretty pumped.
I'm always pumped up. Every
I was
episode
say,
is just like, man, what are we going to hear now? Because, like I said, it seems like every episode gives us some type of encouragement, some type of, perspective shift that we need.
And they're all diverse, I feel like, so far. And I love that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So, before we get into that, though.
You know what time it is.
A Jadea update.
So, Jadea is still doing pretty well. We kind of backed down on the Miralax and because we couldn't even get her in the bathtub, so we kind of had to
yeah.
We kind of had to bring down the Miralax servings a little bit, so she is kind of a little backed up right now, but nothing that I feel like has really changed her happy attitude. Yeah. So, I think things are pretty good.
Yeah, so it's nothing like trying to get your daughter in the bathtub, scrub really quick, and all of a sudden you see some floaties start floating around.
There's many families that can relate to this, okay? I know we're not alone.
If you don't know what we're talking about and you're a little grossed out, I'm sorry, but this is a podcast happens. You tuned into, so
poop happens.
Deal with it.
But yeah, she's doing really well, really, really well. So hopefully it continues. We don't have any huge updates at the moment. Still trying to find her an oral surgeon. The one that I thought we had did not line up. So we'll see how that goes.
Yep. And outside of that, school's right around the corner. So
Jadea will be a first grader. Kyson's a 7th grader.
Woo, woo.
Ooh. Oh, our noises were very different there. So, but yeah, it's exciting. New season for both kids. New school year. It's exciting.
Yep, definitely. Without further ado, let's get into this interview.
Okay. I am very excited for this podcast episode. Excited to hear from this wonderful, beautiful mother that we do know and about her special little boy. So we're kind of going to just jump right into everything. Okay. So Miss Micah, can you kind of introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your family, how many kids you have, their ages. Just kind of give us a rundown and introduction of your family.
Hi, so my name's Micah Eklu, and I've been married for 6 years and have a 6-year-old son and a 4-year-old son. Let me finish. I'm on the phone. My oldest has cerebral palsy, and I also own a salon, and my husband works at Pfizer Pharmaceuticals.
Perfect. And what is your son's name that has cerebral palsy?
Selali.
Selali. I love that name. It's cute. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's kind of jump in. You already kind of talked about the diagnosis and the ages, but kind of like give us a rundown of, when you found kind of the journey, finding out the diagnosis, those details. Did you know beforehand, or did you find out after he was born? Kind of just give us a rundown of the story.
We found out he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy about a year after he was born, and um, we found out through initially when he was about 7 months old. We started getting him therapy services because he was delayed in his development,
Mm-hmm.
and then um, goodness, it wasn't until he was a year old that we had imaging done to see if there was um, any brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they discovered the brain damage and gave him his diagnosis. And that was when we lived in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Um,
And can you kind of give us some information of what you know about cerebral palsy for the listeners that may not know a lot about it?
oh, sure. It's caused by a loss of oxygen to the brain at birth.
Okay. Okay. And what kind of comes with that, like medical issues or delays? Because you're talking about delayed development.
Um,
What were some of those signs, I guess?
well, the thing with cerebral palsy is it's different for everyone.
Okay.
Uh, so some people are like hardly affected at all, and they might just have issues with balance. And then some people are severely affected and have no range of motion whatsoever, and um, it can be pretty severe.
Okay.
But Selali is more in the middle. He has good functioning of his cognitive abilities, but his physical abilities are limited.
Okay.
Um,
Is he in a wheelchair?
yes,
Okay.
he
Okay.
does use a wheelchair, but he's working towards using a walker or gait
Oh,
trainer.
that's great. That's awesome to hear. How exciting.
Yes, we're very excited.
So, when you had Solali or when you were pregnant, was your pregnancy normal? Was that whole experience normal for you?
Yeah, I had a
Okay.
really healthy pregnancy. Everything
Mm.
was going perfect. We didn't suspect, that he would have an injury at birth, but
Right.
it happened because he aspirated meconium, the first
Okay.
the first bowel movement that babies have. He aspirated that while he was in the womb still during labor. So when he finally came out, he wasn't breathing,
Mm.
and
Oh, wow.
they had to do CPR on him for like 10-15 minutes before the ambulance finally arrived.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that's what caused his brain injury was that like 15
Oh,
minutes without oxygen.
oh, wow. How scary. I can't
Yeah,
imagine.
it was very scary.
So, when you guys got the diagnosis, what went through your mind at that time in that moment?
Um, Definitely anger. Because they, I felt like the hospital that he got transferred to didn't do enough.
Mm.
Um, and also they didn't like they said, oh, he might have some developmental delays, but they didn't say you know, a child that hasn't that went without oxygen for 15 minutes
Oh my gosh.
is gonna have permanent brain damage. Nobody said
Said that.
that. So
Wow.
that was very frustrating.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. I can't imagine, girl. Um, all right. So let's kind of talk about some areas of your life that it's affected. We like to jump into several categories and you kind of go over a little bit each time. And so if we cover more than one, that's fine. Tell us how that's kind of, you have another, you have one other child or two?
Just one.
Just one. Okay. So I know that how does that relationship, how is their relationship and the family dynamic, just your family dynamic as a family unit, and then the brothers and their relationship?
Um, so it definitely brings us together. Um, everyone is always on the same page about what Selali needs.
Mm,
Um, and then for the boys, Kikeli is his younger brother.
hmm.
He's very sweet and very protective of his older brother. And we just try to model for him um, how to treat Solali by always including him and even just like moving him around in his wheelchair to different rooms around the house with us when we're doing chores.
Right. Right.
And so because of that, like in the morning, Kelly will get up and go to Solali's bed and um, start undoing his um, what are they? What's the word for them? Uh, he has Solali sleeps with these like immobilizers for his legs to help
Oh,
keep him
okay.
getting in positions where he could hurt himself. And
Okay.
Kelly will get up in the morning and take them off and play with his brother and
Oh, that's cute.
sharing his snacks with him and all of that. So it's very sweet.
That sounds
But
like a really healthy relationship.
but they also
Happy.
fight like brothers sometimes. They'll get on each other's nerves and
uh,
try to hit each other and wrestle on the floor.
yeah, that's great. I love it.
So tell us a little bit about as far as your marriage, like how has, you guys finding out the diagnosis and then just the day to day, the different things that come with it, how has that affected your marriage?
Um, it's it's required us to really talk a lot because um we both have very different um what's the word? We both have very different ideas of what Solali should and shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And so I'm more adventurous and I'm like, oh, let him ride the roller coaster with me and let's, don't stop letting him have adventure and fun just because he's in a wheelchair.
Right.
Where Maxwell, my husband, he's more cautious and just likes to play it safe. So
Yeah.
that does cause a lot of disagreements because a lot of times I feel like he's stifling him, and then other times he feels like I'm just gonna let him get hurt.
Right.
But that's not the
How about
case.
like your romantic aspect of your marriage? Do you feel like it's obviously we don't have to get into the detail, but like, has it affected that part of your marriage in a negative way or a positive way?
Um, I don't think that I don't think Solali's disability has affected us
Right.
in that area. We
Okay.
we have a lot of support and
Good.
people that we can have help out. My mom's a huge help.
Shout out to grandma.
Yeah.
She's a pretty special lady.
Yeah, she is.
How about your social life? I actually know that's one thing I kind of admire about you is I noticed that you do have a pretty solid social life, which probably comes with the fact that you do have that more adventurous. You're not afraid to kind of back down from continuing a healthy social life. So how about your social life or even your husband's social life? Are you guys able to kind of maintain strong social lives individually and as a couple?
I'd say individually, I'm good at maintaining my social life for the most part. And I think that has a lot to do with my line of work since
Mm,
I do people's hair all day and they sit in the chair and we chat. That helps me to keep a social life, and then um, just making it a point to host some different events from time to time, and making it a point to invite people over who also have kids and can, you know, do things where I don't have to find a babysitter.
right.
But my husband, he doesn't have as much of a social life, but I think that's more of a cultural
Mm,
thing. He, he hasn't met a lot of other Africans where we live, so it makes it
harder.
kind of hard for him to connect with people.
Yeah.
And then as a couple, we 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 meet couples we want to hang out with and stuff, but then everyone's busy
Story
all the
of our lives.
Yeah.
so
Well, if he ever wants to make a new friend, I have a really good guy sitting right next to me that would
Well,
that could use a new friend in his
I
life.
usually see him from time to time. We normally say what's up to each other and whatnot. So
Shout out to
he's
Pfizer employees.
very shy, so it's a little harder for him to make new friends than it is for me. I'm the type
Yeah.
of person I'll see somebody that I think I'll get along with, and you cannot be climbing fences. I'll see somebody that um I'll just go up to people and start a conversation and
Right.
ask
Right.
for their social media accounts and stuff. There's a bunch of ants. That's
It's
you see all these red ants.
she's being a mama right now, listeners. If you're wondering what she's doing, she's being a mama. How about what else we got here, Cliff?
let's talk a little bit about mental health.
Yeah.
So mentally, how has it affected you or your husband mentally? Because, sometimes just on the day-to-days, we get used to going through the, routine, but,
Yeah.
sometimes when certain things come up mentally, it affects us.
Or
And
even in the beginning of the journey,
yeah,
the grief or the anger or the
Uh,
depression. If that, talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
I've gone through all of those stages and probably go through all those stages every week. Um, yeah, at least once a week I have a
Mhm.
good cry.
Preach.
But I also I see a therapist every week. Um, Managed to find one that works remotely, and that also is like available. I see her at like 6 a.m.
Oh, wow.
At 6
Wow.
a.m. But that's early morning, and late night is the only time you really get for yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so I have a session with her once a week, and it
Good. That's
um,
great.
really helps with processing through everything.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
a really good That's a good piece of advice. I never really think about it sometimes, but man,
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you need help, get help.
yeah,
That's definitely because sometimes I think people have their own opinions about therapy
therapy.
and things of that nature. But again, it's if you
Yeah,
need help, if you need mentally talk to someone, a lot of times holding it in is probably the worst thing you can do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So definitely, I commend you on that.
Yeah, yeah,
thank you. And I think it's important too. People um, find a therapist that can relate to them
right.
Yeah,
culturally,
yeah.
because that's what I had to do. I tried a few different people before I found the lady that I've been with for like a year and a half now.
Oh, wow.
It, she's she's an older black lady from New Orleans, and my I don't know if you guys remember my grandpa, but he's from Louisiana, and excuse me, her spirit just really resonated with me, and so I think it's important that people just it's like interviewing to hire for any position. You're hiring your therapist, and you don't have to settle for just anybody. You want to
Yeah,
really search for someone that you're going to have that you're going to be able to connect with, because that's how you get comfortable with spilling your heart out and telling them everything, because
yeah,
that's all therapy works, is if you can be honest with
yeah.
yourself, your
That's a
therapist.
good point. It's a really good point. I never even thought about focusing on that cultural similarity. That's a really good point. Yeah,
It makes a big difference.
yeah. Wow. She's teaching me all kind of things today, guys. So you mentioned that you have a salon. Does I guess are you able to keep consist I mean, you probably are able to keep consistency because you probably have flexibility on how you schedule. But I mean, do you and your husband ever have issues as far as with your job and balancing all of that, or does it work pretty well for you guys? You have a pretty good plan in place?
Yeah, it works really well for us. Um, the only time we have an issue is when um, like there will be times that I'm running late because a client's taking me longer than expected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those are the only times that we have a problem
Mm-hmm.
because of my job, but usually that's not an issue.
That's good. That's good. Good.
Make it nicer being able to make my work schedule around the kids' schedule.
Right. Right. Um, Tell me a little, jump into a little, let's talk about Selali individually a little bit, his personality, what he's like, what he likes or dislikes. Kind of let us know a little bit about him. Cause I know, like, for example, our daughter is not the most joyful girl most of the time. There's kids that do have disabilities that have behavior issues. And there's some kids that don't. They're joyful and they're happy all the time and content, which makes a difference on how we conduct our lives. So tell us a little bit about Salali and his personality.
Um, so Selali is one of those kids that's very joyful and always has a smile on his face and just very laid back, goes with the flow. Um,
You want to trade? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
my younger one is the opposite. So
Oh, really?
yes, yes, he is tough. But yeah, Selali, he loves to be out and about. He loves to stay busy. He's a people person, so he likes big crowds, and
Mm,
he's
wow.
he gives everybody he sees, he gives a smile when they're talking to him. He's just very, very much a social butterfly.
like his mama.
I'm halfway social butterfly.
Oh, okay. Okay. 50%, 50%.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That I'm sure that makes certain things a little easier. I know in our case, sometimes I wish it was like that. I think it would be easier to be more adventurous and
Yes,
active, and
I would agree.
it puts a damper on some things. So that's a blessing that he does have that personality. Does he have anything that like triggers like you know, angers him and makes him mad, or overwhelms him and gives him anxiety? Does he have any issues with that? Like any triggers of any kind?
So he like to hear people yell, that will trigger like an outburst of sadness.
Okay.
And he doesn't like to see his brother upset. So if he sees Kelly upset and crying or screaming, then Selali's yelling and hollering,
Oh, wow.
everybody. Um, um, but other than that, he doesn't. There's not a lot that upsets him.
Wow.
His food, if you're taking too long with his food, he gets an attitude.
He gets hangry.
Yeah.
That's too cute. So as far as I just like to get a good idea so listeners kind of know details. So Selali is in a wheelchair. He can chew and swallow by himself, correct?
Yes.
Can he feed himself?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. He's nonverbal, you said?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. What kind of does he use, like any technology? Is he able to use, like, you know how they have those iPads you can use for communication and stuff like that? Does he use anything like that?
Yeah, he has an eye gaze device, but
Oh,
um,
okay.
but really, he doesn't really use it so much. Verbally, he can say yes and no,
Okay.
so that helps a lot with being able to figure out what he does and doesn't want.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in what ways, in what positive ways has this experience that you and your family have been on, how's it, helped you guys grow as individuals and grow collectively as a family?
Um, I think it's definitely required us to have more patience, be more attentive, just in general in our day to day, especially with him being nonverbal. We have to really pay attention to his body language and
Mhm.
a pretty strict schedule. And um, I would say it's also taught, for me personally, it's taught me how to speak up more and be more of an advocate for not only him, but myself
Right.
and just my entire family in general.
Yeah.
What else?
She said, what else? I think that each experience and journey just teaches us. In my opinion, it's taught me more than I can vocally express sometimes,
Yeah.
or that I even realize until I go back and reflect on it. Definitely. But I understand with the attentiveness. I'm still not very good at it. Cliff's a lot better than I am. I'm off in my own world a lot of times. It's pretty bad, but shout out to mommy. So we just like to kind of at the end of every interview talk about a piece of advice, or I mean any kind of advice or encouragement you could give families and other individuals that are new to this special needs journey, or whatever you want to say. or they're getting ready to kind of, go through the experience. What kind of advice would you have for them, or encouragement would you give to them?
Um, Definitely to take care of themselves as best they can, um, and to not be afraid to put them for the parents. Don't be afraid to put yourself first. Um, find ways to keep doing the things that you always enjoyed, um, even ways that you can include your child who has special needs in
Mhm.
those activities. Um, just find ways to not lose yourself. Yes, find ways to not lose yourself in being a parent, because I know um, it's very easy to get lost in that identity and kind of forget who you were before you became a parent.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely put yourself first and make sure your needs are met physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so true.
definitely appreciate that. Yeah, what they tell you on the airplane, got to put your mask on first
Yeah.
That's
before you can help anybody else. So, and I think as parents, sometimes we get so, engaged with our children and really wanting to, help them and do everything we can for them that sometimes we lose ourselves in the process. And
Yeah.
we have to remember that again, if like you just said, we have to take care of ourselves, because again, if we're in a bad mental state, emotional state, spiritual state, physical state, then how can we take care of our loved ones? How can we take care of our children? So
Yeah. That was great. That's beautiful. I'm taking notes today. All right. Well, Micah, we really appreciate you taking the time. I know
yes,
this girl
thank
is
you.
on vacay. Well, she's out of her general area that she's usually in. So she's on vacay doing her thing with her kids. So I really appreciate the time that you took to just do this interview. Can't wait to share it with everybody. We really appreciate
Yes,
you
thank you
and
so
getting to
much.
know a little bit about your family. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for this opportunity. I'm always glad to share and learn. I've learned a lot from your previous podcast, and thank you guys for
Of
doing this.
course. Of course. All right. Yes. That was some good stuff, y'all.
Yes.
And she was doing it all while multitasking in the background. Kudos to Micah for sure.
Big ups.
But anyways, okay. Let's talk about our takeaways. What was yours?
So mine when she talked about, not being afraid to get help, to get that mental help,
Yeah.
see a therapist if you need to, like, because I think sometimes people, they feel like, you should be able to handle it, or, you have some super religious folks that, hey, just pray about it, or,
Right.
read your Bible and everything's going to be okay. But, I really like, and, to have that encouraging to seek out help if you need it. I mean, mentally, that's definitely a thing that can really affect all aspects of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeking out that help, talking to someone, reaching out to a therapist, a counselor, whatever you need to do to get that help that you need, do it. That was one of my big takeaways.
Absolutely. Just being able to be vulnerable enough to do that, because
Yes.
it does take a lot of vulnerability. And I know for men especially, that's really hard sometimes. So, yeah, that was good. She had great points. I always learn something new from Micah just from talking to her outside of obviously this podcast interview. She's a very uplifting, inspiring person. The biggest thing that I took away for myself, especially, but also for Cliff too, because we're not very good about it, is just making time for yourself. You know, doing the things you love to do and that make you happy and bring you joy and remind you of who you used to be before you became a parent in general, whether it's a parent to a special needs kid or not. Just remembering to take care of yourself. And obviously what Cliff just touched on, that is a part of self-care, but outside of, seeking that therapy that you need, that professional help, just the little things, making time for yourself. I thought that was so good because even though it's something parents do hear all the time, it's something that a lot of us are not good at, not good at prioritizing it and realizing it until someone points it out. So I really appreciated that point of advice. And I do love her adventurous attitude and her spirit, her willingness to just make sure that her Selali is involved in everything that he can be involved in. And like we kind of touched on during the interview, like I wish sometimes Jadea was more cooperative and sweet and nice and happy-go-lucky so we could be more adventurous. But at the same time, that can't always be a crutch either.
Yeah.
I think the more she's exposed to, the better it may get. You never know until you try. But we definitely got some PTSD over here for real.
Yes.
But no, Micah that was great. She's such a sweet person. She's just got a beautiful soul. And her husband wasn't able to be on with us, but he seems like he's a great father as well, a great supporter. And they have a great dynamic is what I hear. So that was really exciting to interview Micah.
Good times.
Absolutely. All right. Well, again, always like to remind you guys, keep sharing, keep spreading the word. We're just trying to get our name out there. And then I do want to also remind everybody that we actually have some merchandise. We have some T-shirts.
Merch alert.
Okay. We have some T-shirts for sale. We have a very limited amount this time around. But we are going to start advertising for that. If anyone is interested in purchasing a T-shirt, you will start to see that on our Facebook page, TikTok, all the social media. So you'll have to make sure and keep your eyes peeled for that. So you got anything else, Mr. Bunville? Oh my gosh, I can't with this man, y'all. I can't.
No, you got any golden nuggets to leave the people with?
I don't know if I have any golden nuggets.
To help the people get along their week.
I'm going to say something that we just learned about last week. Look for and appreciate and celebrate the really small things that go on within your week. There's going to probably be more negative than positive because that's just how life tends to be and the world tends to be. But that doesn't mean that's what you have to focus on. So just find that one small positive thing about your week and embrace that all week long if you have to. I don't know. I've been living by that. So anyway.
You go, girl.
All right. We out.